Designing a product and actually building it have always been two separate steps. You make something in a design tool, hand it off, and then wait while developers try to recreate it from scratch. But now, there's a workflow you can use to go from an AI-generated design to a fully working app running in your browser all in one sitting, using two platforms, Flowstep and Cursor. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how. I'm going to give you a full tutorial on how to use Flowstep, which is an AI design tool that generates real editable UI from a prompt, and every design it creates has actual React, TypeScript, and Tailwind code behind it, which is how this is even possible in the first place. We're going to use it to design a music streaming app, export the actual code, and then use Cursor to turn those designs into a real interactive app. All right, let's get started. Why this workflow? Before we dive in, let me explain why this two-step workflow matters, because you might be wondering, why don't we just skip Flowstep and ask Cursor to build the app directly? The whole point of starting in Flowstep is to figure out what you're actually building before you commit to it. When you jump straight into a coding tool like Cursor, every change is expensive. It costs you tokens, it costs you time, and once the agent has built something, exploring a different direction means tearing down what's already there and starting over. In Flowstep, you can try 5 different versions of a screen in the time it takes Cursor to build one. You can throw a reference image in, change the entire visual direction, regenerate every screen at once, all on a canvas where you can compare them side by side. So you use Flowstep to explore and get aligned on what the product should look like, and then use Cursor to actually build it once you know what you want. That's the workflow. Design with Flowstep, build with Cursor, and you save yourself a huge amount of wasted effort in the middle. Designing the music streaming app in Flowstep. So for this music streaming app, I want a welcome screen, an onboarding flow, a home screen, search, library, a playlist detail, a full now playing screen, and a profile. Now normally designing all of that would mean opening Figma and spending hours placing every element by hand before you even have something to show your team. With Flowstep, you can generate real editable UI just by describing what you want and then iterate on it in seconds. So by the end of this section, we're going to have a full set of screens ready to export. And if you want to follow along, you can sign up for Flowstep for free using the first link in the description down below. Generating the first screen. So here is the Flowstep canvas, and over here is the chat window where you tell it what to design. I'm going to start with the most important screen, the home screen. I'll ask for a music streaming home screen with recommended playlists, recently played albums, and a section for new releases. And there it is, a full home screen just from that one prompt. Now what's important here is that this isn't just a flat image. This is actually an editable UI with real components, which means I can keep building on top of this without starting over, creating the next screen. So now I want a second screen, and Flowstep has a really nice shortcut for this. Instead of writing another prompt, I just hit create next screen from the menu and it generates whatever the next logical screen in the flow would be. That's a one-click action, no prompting required. Switching the theme. Now let's say I want to see how this looks, I don't know, in a light theme. One click, and every screen on the canvas switches over. Generating the profile screen. Let's add the profile screen. I'll just ask Flowstep to show me the profile screen, and there it is. Notice that it picked up the same style as the rest of the app automatically, because Flowstep treats the whole canvas as one project, trying a completely different style with a reference image. Now this is where it gets really powerful. If you've ever tried to describe a visual style with words, you know how painful that is. You end up going back and forth, telling it to make more minimal but not too minimal, and it never quite lands where you want it to. So instead of trying to explain it, I'm just gonna show Flowstep what I mean. I drag a reference image onto the canvas and ask it to try a completely different style using that vibe for inspiration. And there we go, a completely different direction in seconds. The reason this works so well is because Flowstep uses that image as actual context for the generation, so it picks up on the layout, the colors, and just the overall feel. And you can do this with anything, screenshots, PRDs, or even other designs already on the canvas. Changing the primary color. Okay, I prefer the original direction, but I want the primary color to be green to match the music app vibe that I had in mind. I'll select the home screen and just ask Flowstep to change the primary color to green. Done. This is exactly the kind of fast iteration that is painful to do anywhere else. You're not digging through color picker menus or hunting for hex codes, you're just describing what you want. generating the remaining screens. Now I need the rest of the screens to fill out the app. I could generate each one individually, but Flowstep can handle the whole thing at once. So I'm going to ask it to generate the remaining screens covering the full user journey, onboarding, a search screen, a playlist screen, and well, anything else it thinks might be relevant. And there we are, all consistent with the same design language across every screen. That consistency is huge. When you build screens one at a time in Figma, keeping the spacing, the colors, and components aligned across all of them is a constant headache. Here, it's handled automatically because Flowstep treats the whole set as one project, what we've got and what's next. So at this point, we've done the fun part. We've explored, we've iterated, we've thrown out a direction we didn't like and come back to one that works. And we've got a full set of screens that hang together visually. You could absolutely stop here if you just need the design. Copy and paste it straight into Figma, no plugins, no extensions, or share it with your team right inside Flowstep. But we are going to take this further because everything Flowstep designs is one-to-one with real code. And now that we know what we want, this is the right time to take it into Cursor and turn it into a real app, getting your code out of Flowstep. So let me show you what this looks like. I'm going to select the home screen and open the code panel on the side. And right there, that is the actual React TypeScript and Tailwind code for this design. Now I'm going to download every screen as its own folder. So now on my computer, I've got 9 screens inside the folder music app. And if I open them up, you can see that each one is a complete React project on its own, with the screen itself in app.tsx, plus Tailwind, shadcn, and all the config you need to actually run it. This is exactly what we're going to bring into Cursor. Quick preview in Cursor. So now we've got all of our coded screens downloaded, and there are 2 things we can do with them. The first is a quick preview in Terminal, which is useful if you just want to see what an individual screen looks like running in the browser. The second is taking all of those screens and wiring them together into one interactive app with real navigation, a working bottom tab bar, and a mini player that updates as you tap through tracks. Let me show you both, starting with a quick preview. So I'll just navigate to the right folder. In the terminal, I'll run npm i to install the dependencies, then npm run setup, then npm run dev to start the dev server. Now, if I open localhost in the browser, there's my Flowstep design running live. This is great for quick sanity checks, and you can see it matches exactly what we saw on the canvas, but each screen runs on its own here. There is no way to click between them, which is why we're going to take them to Cursor, and this is where things get really interesting. From design to working app in Cursor. So instead of previewing one screen at a time, I'm going to use one prompt to tell Cursor to take every screen export we downloaded and build them into one working app. I actually wrote this prompt with Claude beforehand because there's a few specific things I want Cursor to handle, like consolidating all 9 Vite projects into one next.js app, stripping the bottom tab bar out of every screen and replacing it with one shared component, and wiring up a mini player that persists across the main screens. So here is my project folder with all 9 screen exports inside it. I'll open this in Cursor, paste the prompt in, let it work. Cursor is going to start by reading what's in each export so it knows exactly what it's working with. Then it will scaffold a fresh Next.js app, copy each screen into its own root, and most importantly, take the bottom tab bar that's baked into every screen and replace it with one shared component across the whole main layout. Same thing for the mini player. It pulls that out of every screen and turns it into a single shared component that updates whenever you tap a new track, running the finished app. And there it is. Let me run the app and open it up. I'll click through the onboarding. So here's the welcome screen, hit get started, pick a few genres, follow some artists, and now we're on the home screen. The bottom tab bar is working too. I can jump between home, search, library, and profile. Let me tab into a playlist, and there's the playlist detail with the full track list. I'll tap a track and the full player screen opens up with all the controls. And here's the part I really like. Watch the mini player at the bottom of the home and search screens. It updates to whatever track I last tapped, so it actually feels like a real music app. So this is a fully interactive app. Every screen we designed in Flowstep is now a real page that you can navigate through. And all of that came from one prompt without writing any code by hand, refining the design in Cursor's visual editor. So Cursor has already done its main job here. It's taken our design and built the actual app. But there is one more nice feature worth showing, which is its visual editor. It lets you make small style changes directly on the live app, and Cursor finds the right file and writes the code for you. This is where Cursor is at its best for design changes. It's not built for exploring. You definitely wouldn't want to use this to try out 5 different visual directions for a screen. But for the final 10% of polish, where you know what you want and just need it changed, it is a really nice way to work. So let me show you what that looks like. So I've got the app running in Cursor's built-in browser, and I'm going to open up the visual editor. I'll click on the play button on this icon, and over in the sidebar, I can see all of the style properties for this element. Let me change the icon color to blue. See how it updates live as I adjust it? And when I'm happy with it, I hit apply, and Cursor's agent goes and finds the actual file in the code base and writes the code change for me. So I didn't have to search through any files or figure out which CSS property to change. It just handled it. Now there is another way to make changes too. Instead of using the sidebar controls, I can try and describe what I want. I'll click on one of the playlist tiles on the home screen and type use an avatar/image here instead for profile. Cursor figures out which property needs to change, goes into the right file and writes the update. And there it is, it's changed to an image. So between the sidebar controls and the plain language prompts, you can refine the last 10% without ever opening a code file. The thing to remember is that each of these changes takes Cursor a moment to figure out and write, which is fine because at this stage in the workflow you're not exploring anymore, you're polishing. Big visual decisions happen earlier in Flowstep where iteration is fast and simple. Final tweaks happen here, where the code is. If you want to try this out for yourself, you can start using Flowstep for free by clicking the first link in the description. It lets you generate full UI designs from a prompt, iterate on them in seconds, and then when you're ready, copy everything straight into Figma or export the code and start building, just like we did in this video. And if this makes you wonder if AI is going to replace product designers, well, watch this video next.